The media are very, very excited, ladies and gentlemen, because a federal judge, Peter Mesite, a U.S. district judge, of which there are almost 1,000 of them, you see, so you bring enough lawsuits, you bring enough cases, and you're bound to find one leftist in there. Federal judge allows discovery to move forward in the Trump emoluments case. You hear this? A federal judge today denied President Trump's appeal to pause discovery in a lawsuit that alleges he violated a constitutional clause banning gifts and advantages from foreign and domestic governments, raising the possibility that transactions between the Trump International Hotel and foreign dignitaries might be made public. So, as you know, President Trump is a longtime developer. He's a very wealthy man. His children are involved in the business. He's built hotels and resorts and so forth. So there's this hotel in Washington, absolutely magnificent hotel, the Trump International Hotel. And dignitaries stay there. That is, representatives of foreign governments. And so what they're arguing is, these states and these left-wing groups, is that the president still has an ownership interest in Trump International Hotel. Therefore, he's receiving benefits from at least some foreign and state governments, as well as from the federal government. Quote, accordingly, the president's ownership interest in the Trump International Hotel and his apparent receipt of benefits from at least some foreign and state governments, as well as from the federal government itself, suggest he has received emoluments in violation of the Constitution, giving rise to plausible causes of action against him brought by parties with standing. That's the judge. That's not what the emoluments clause was meant to say or be. In other words, what it was saying was these public officials cannot be on the payroll of a federal government. They cannot be to a foreign government. They cannot be beholden to a foreign government. Because, obviously, that could influence their decision-making. It's nothing to do with investments. What if the president owned an apartment building and some foreign dignitaries were staying there? What if the president owns a bunch of restaurants and a lot of foreign dignitaries and federal employees eat there? What if the president of the United States owns the biggest Washington, D.C. Chevy or Ford dealership, and foreigners and foreign dignitaries and federal employees purchase cars from there? I assume that in every case, a president would be in violation of the emoluments clause. That's not what's meant by that. And, of course, it's brought by the Maryland Attorney General Brian Frosh, nitwit. The D.C. Attorney General Carl Racine, another nitwit. Now, what's interesting, Mr. Producer, will you find out who appointed this judge? It's spelled Messitte. Would you Google that, please? Whenever there's a decision and it involves a Republican-appointed judge, you always know it's a Republican-appointed judge. This guy may well be, because the dirty little secret is these district court judges, they're not treated like circuit judges when they're nominated. What happens, and what has happened now for decades under many, many presidents, is that in order to get 2 or 3 district court judges through the Senate, you typically have to give the Democrats one. It works like this. Let's say there's a couple of vacancies on a federal trial or federal district court in New York. And you have, obviously, 2 left-wing kook senators in New York, and they put a hold on all of them. So typically what you have to say is, look, we're going to take these 3, we'll give you one. Which one do you want? Now, this goes on all the time. It does not go on the appellate courts or the Supreme Court. But I'm just curious, because they didn't identify who appointed Peter Mesite. Do we know yet, Mr. Producer? William Jefferson Clinton. He's a Clinton appointee. Now, I assumed it was a Democrat who appointed him because it's not in the article. It's not in the CNN Newswire. So you have a Clinton appointee who's a hack, who knows that the Constitution doesn't compel this. But he wants to help, you see, the Attorney General of Maryland and the Attorney General of the District of Columbia to conduct their political lawsuit to get access to potentially the president's tax returns. This is never ending. It'll only get worse if they take the House, and certainly the Senate. But this is what happens when the rule of law goes out the window. This is what happens with the bastardization of the Constitution. This has nothing to do with the emolument clause. Nothing. You own property. Say you build a building that has a bunch of condominiums. You're selling the apartments off. And the government comes in for some foreign government and says, we're going to buy 5 of those because it's just easier to do. We want to put our people in. That would be a violation. As I said, a restaurant, that would be a violation, apparently. And that's not what's intended. You see, people like William Jefferson Clinton, a.k.a. B.J. Clinton, Al Gore, Bloviator, Barack Milhouse Benito Obama, and Mrs. Barack Milhouse Benito Obama, most of them make tens of millions of dollars after they're out of office, parlaying their positions as former presidents or former first ladies with publishers, with entertainment companies, getting speech money from the Russians or whatever the hell it is. Al Gore's worth $150 million. Now, this guy is dumb as a doorknob. The Clintons, since they've been out of office, have grossed $250 million. Money is flying at the Obamas like you can't believe it. Flying at the Obamas. Mr. and Mrs. Class Warfare. Like you can't believe it. They didn't make any money before they became president or first lady. Donald Trump is a self-made multi-billionaire, even though the New York Times tried to smear him. He's a self-made multi-billionaire. He's changed the skyline in New York City. He's hired not just tens of thousands over the decades, maybe 100,000 people. Good paying jobs. The Clintons, the Obamas, Gore, they never created good paying jobs. They just take money from people. And so now the emoluments clause is going to be used against any wealthy person who runs for president of the United States. This is just diabolical by this Clinton judge. And he's already given his answer. The case is over even before it begins. This is nothing more than a left-wing tactic. That's all it is. But I'm bringing it up to you because it just happened, and this is what's going to continue to happen.